presenter. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Meg and John.
Let me just share my screen here. Let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see it.
Okay, thank you, Leslie, for giving us the opportunity to present today. My name is Meg Odanga. I am Employer Engagement Specialist with Minnesota Retain Program. And joining me this morning is John Cornell, our Grant Specialist Coordinator, and Akiatu Pratt is supposed to be on the call too. She's the Community Engagement Specialist with Minnesota Retain. So thank you all for joining us today. Today we want to talk about challenge that affect many Minnesotans, job loss due to health conditions. Every year, workers lose their job not because they lack skill or motivation, but because an illness or injury temporarily disrupts their ability to work. This often results in financial stress, loss of benefit, and difficulty returning to the workforce without early help. Many people permanently leave the workforce even when they could have stayed employed with the right support. Retain is a free federal funded program that helps workers stay at work or return to work as soon as medically possible after a health condition impact their job. We partner with workers, employers, and healthcare providers to create coordinated return to work plan that focus on early intervention, appropriate accommodation, and medical coordination. So Minnesota Retain has grown significantly since it started. Phase 1, we supported about 150 workers in southeastern Minnesota. In phase 2, expanded statewide with the goal of serving about 3,200 workers that include at least 15% BIPOC participation. Then we had the sustainability pilot, which started in 2024 and is still going on to 2026. It expanded that expanded enrollment and aligned Retain with state workforce policies. And through the Disability Innovation Fund, we are expanding partnership with healthcare and workforce system through 2029. Here is how the return process works. First, workers can be referred by healthcare providers or employers, or they can self-refer themselves. They then complete an initial assessment with the case manager who review their condition and job duties. Next, there's a customized return to work plan, which is created with input from the worker, employer, and medical provider. We offer services such as case management, medical coordination, workplace accommodation support, and vocational rehab. And throughout the process, we monitor progress and adjust plans to ensure a safe return to work. To qualify, participants must be 18 years or older, live and work in Minnesota, be employed at the time of enrollment, and currently unable to work or unable to work even with accommodation. They must also be within 6 months of their last day worked. Employers and healthcare providers play a key role. Employers can refer workers and help implement accommodations. Healthcare providers identify eligible patients and collaborate on return to work plans that align care with job demands. Minnesota Retain has made a significant impact. Over 3,600 workers have enrolled. We've served participants in 90% of Minnesota counties. Mayo Clinic added employment as a social determinant of health in its medical record system because of Retain. The state added category 8, which is ill and injured individual to dislocated work eligibility. More than 1,000 participants have returned to work or started a new job. We've provided over $750,000 in dollars in support service like transportation and housing assistance. We exceeded our equity benchmark, which was 24.7% of participants that are BIPOC. We are surpassing our 15% goal. Retain helped did build a replicable community engagement model. Participant satisfaction remained high at 80 to 90%, and 476 healthcare providers have completed our CME training on work restriction. Our work has generated 6 peer-reviewed journal publications contributing to national learning. So this is just for our resources, the Department of Labor, Office of Disability, Social Security, Minnesota Retain. So those are just slides for showing our resources page. And finally, before we close, we just want to acknowledge the partners who make this program possible, and that is the Department of Employment and Economic Development. And then we have the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. We do have Mayo Clinic, Workforce Development, Inc., and Department of Thank you again for the opportunity to present today. We look forward to your question and to explore how we can work together and support workers and employers. Any question?
Again, please raise your hand or put your questions in the chat. But thank you, Meg. And so if at any point during the presentation, if you have questions, please put them in the chat and Meg or John would be happy to answer them. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Christy Mansour to you. Christy holds a bachelor's degree in child and family studies and a master's in clinical mental health and school counseling. A licensed school counselor with an endorsement in infant and early childhood mental health, she began her career in high schools before joining Head Start in central Minnesota as a mental health coordinator, where she focused on early childhood as a key driver of long-term outcomes and systems change. She was recently selected for the Office of Head Start National Fellowship in Washington, D.C., expanding her national leadership perspective and continues supporting Head Start through grant work. As interim executive director of Ellison Center, she focuses on systems improvement, organizational growth, and collaboration to create lasting impact for children, families, and communities in central Minnesota. So again, Christy, if you want to share your screen, you should be able to, but you can take over. And again, this presentation is funded through funds through Minnesota Retain.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leslie, and thank you, Minnesota Retain, for having me today and funding this critical work. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. And then Leslie, while I have this open, shoot, I'm not able to see the meeting. Oh, here we go. You know, technical difficulties. We've only been doing this online stuff for 6 years. We need a little more grace. All right, I think we're getting set up here. Just want to be able to see if there are questions and interactions with you all. All right, so today we're going to be talking about trauma-informed care for employers. And as Leslie was introducing me, you might notice I have a lot of infant and early childhood background, kid background, and you might think, well, what does that have to do with trauma-informed care as an employer? I would like to shift your mindset a little bit and how that applies. And part of my story, like Leslie mentioned, is that I'm big into systems. I'm big into starting early to affect human behavior long term. Most of what is on here, a little bit about me, is things that Leslie said, but I would say my main passion professionally is supporting the people that support the people. So that's you as supervisors. Maybe that's bosses, CEOs, executive directors, supervisor within the organization, principals, superintendents, whatever that might be. My goal is to pour into you so that you feel equipped to pour into your people and your team. This is very casual in the sense of if you have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Or like Leslie said, I believe you can raise your hand and I can call on you that way as well. So a little plug for Ellison because I really believe in what we do. Ellison is a local nonprofit. We specialize in supporting early childhood mental health systems. And early childhood mental health is really that 0 to 5 range. And truly, research has shown that 0 to 5 age range is when our brains are developing the most. And if we can get in early and help wire those pathways for health and success, it creates healthier humans and healthier societies. And so we really believe in that early childhood mental health mindset. But then again, it pours into family systems, it pours into communities and work systems if we can address and help kiddos early. We also provide curated professional development trainings, anywhere around trainings like we're doing today, more work around reflective consultation, where we come in and support your team and your staff to reflect on the work that they're doing. We also provide therapy and support in homes or schools or local community settings. We have lots of contracts with different organizations in the community where we're supporting the work that they're doing as well. Our goal at Ellison is always to build resilience early and create healthier futures for children, families, and again, our communities. If we can build those things earlier, we have healthier families, healthier employees, healthier systems, but big picture, it's never too late. So things like today, we're learning and taking in to be able to say, well, I didn't get to my employees when they were 3, 4, and 5, but I have them now. So how do I pour in and be a trauma-informed employer to support them? Many of you, some of you, may have been a part of this presentation last year. One of my colleagues, Sarah, I believe, gave that presentation. And so my goal today is that this will touch on some of the things she probably talked about, give us a little bit of a refresh, but then dive a little deeper into some tangible skills and things that you can leave with today to be able to implement into your workplace. And really just feel supported in the work that you do. I'd also like to say that if after today something sticks with you and you'd like to reach out to us for training within your organization, you're welcome to. You are more than welcome to follow up with me if you have questions as well. My email will be provided. So today we're going to understand trauma in the workplace a little bit better and how that affects the work and what's getting done, productivity. It's really hard as humans. If I had a fight in my home this morning, I all of a sudden have to shift that off before I get to work, and I have to set that aside. We walk into our spaces, we walk into our workplaces holding the things of our personal lives. So understanding that we're all human, you guys included as supervisors, and what are we bringing into the workplace every day, and how do we handle it well? We want to recognize trauma and its impact on staff. That's the people experiencing the trauma. There's always secondary trauma that if folks come in with these heavy heart experiences, it affects everyone around them. So how does that affect you as employers? How does it affect their coworkers? We're going to learn some really practical supervision strategies. Like I said, skills that you can implement today if you want to. We're going to start small. It doesn't need to be a huge systems shift day one. And we're going to talk about building a trauma-informed culture. Not everyone is a therapist, nor everyone should be. And we're not asking you to provide therapy, but holding this trauma-informed awareness will benefit you, will benefit your team, will benefit your final output, your revenue, because we're taking care of our employees and our people first. So what is trauma? A lot of times we think of trauma as something huge. We all went through collective trauma during 9/11. I don't want to assume that everyone on this call was alive during 9/11. We have some awesome young working professionals, But the world at that time went through collective trauma. We all went through collective trauma thinking about COVID-19 and how big and unknown and scary that was. So those are big trauma moments. A big trauma moment in someone's personal life may be the death of a loved one, maybe some kind of assault, maybe some kind of car accident. Those are huge life-altering events. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that trauma can be very triggering to talk about, can be very hard to talk about. So if at any point while we're chatting today, if it feels like too much, take a break, walk away, we get it. Take a breath. And like Leslie said, these slides will be available for you to look at a different time as well. But take care of you as we talk about something that can be hard and heavy. There are little traumas. We think of those big T traumas, and then there's little t traumas. And those little t traumas might just be a consistent, stressed home environment. It may be, I haven't been able to keep a steady job for more than 18 months at a time. I might be really stressed about money and making my bills and my finances come together this month and to pay everything that I need to. There are these little things that build up, especially thinking through, it could include chronic stress. Like I was saying, maybe my household is not a healthy place to be, and I'm constantly stressed about that. Feeling like I'm burning out at work. Maybe I don't get along with some of my coworkers. I've worked in plenty of places to know that we all don't get along. And so thinking about, oh, I have to go in and see Jenny today. If any of you are Jenny, it's not personal, but like whoever, that like I know when I interact with this person, it's really hard and stressful for me. And this trauma, these little, seemingly little things affect how people think, feel, and respond. If I know I have to go in and meet with Jenny today and Jenny and I don't get along, man, I am getting myself ready to put up a fight because I don't know how else to respond to her. And whatever I've tried in the past doesn't work. And so we're taking the time today to address those little things that could seem like not a big deal and how they could become a big deal. Slow the process down, be informed, and help our staff through it. I do want to say it starts with you. And that doesn't mean that you're alone. It doesn't mean, again, that you have to shift a whole culture. But we have a really privileged space as leaders within our organizations to be able to model these things for our staff. Nor do you have to get it perfect. I don't get it perfect. None of us get it perfect. There are times when we get really stressed and frustrated and maybe react more harshly than we wish we would have. But guess what? We have the opportunity to go back and repair that. We have the opportunity to go back and apologize. People are people first. And if we can see them as humans, if we can see them as people with full, fulfilling lives outside of work, it's going to help them to feel supported. It's going to help them to feel like they have more buy-in at work and they want to be there. Generationally, younger generations are showing up in the workforce. And when we think about what they want, it's very different from what my parents wanted, who are baby boomers, in their careers. Baby boomers tended to stick to one job, have company loyalty, and stay there. And that was it. I'm here, I'm loyal, I'm doing it. Even my generation, I'm an elder millennial, but even my generation has started to shift to say, I don't have loyalty. If you can't treat me well, if you can't treat and see me as a human, why would I stay with this company? I want to buy into what I'm doing every day, even if it's not my life's passion. How do I feel connected to the work I'm doing? And that's really important to see people first. I also just want to caveat, I'm not saying the younger generations don't have loyalty. However, we got to think creatively about buying in for our younger folks. Okay, if you're able, and I'm not sure if this is a capability you have on this Teams, can you give a thumbs up on your screen, or you can just choose the thumbs up option, if you have ever seen burnout or stress from your team this year? You can also put it in the chat. Okay, we got one. Or raise hand. Okay, I see another one. Nice. Right. Screen's lighting up. Nice. See some in the chat. Beautiful. All right. So if you're able to, take a look at the team screen and see that you are not alone. See that workouts or work stress, work burnout is typical, is normal. And the hope is that that's a little bit normalizing, that's a little bit, hey, we're all in this together. You're not alone, because it can feel really isolating. In my role as interim executive director, this is the first role I've had where I'm at the top. And at times it can feel very lonely. I have support. I have an excellent team. I have an excellent board, but I'm the only one there. And how do I deal healthily with the burnout and the stress of myself, of my team, of whoever's around? The other thought is it's not meant to be depressing or hopeless to see like, oh, we're all dealing with stress and burnout. We know that's a natural human thing, right? So we can choose to focus on, we're in this together. Let's think concretely. Let's think creatively about how we address this. And I want to applaud all of you for taking the time to do that today. I know you're busy leading whatever organization or company you're a part of, but you are already paying it back to your employees and making it better because you're taking the time to learn today. So way to go. All right. Okay, again, I don't know if you have this capability, but if you can, how confident would you say you are supporting your staff under stress? If you can, I don't think we'll be able to do like the check mark, question mark, or exclamation point, but if you want to put a appropriate emoji in there, maybe a smiley face is very confident. Maybe somewhat confident is the tight teeth emoji. Maybe the not confident is a frowny. But thinking through, you can put it in if you can, but if not, just thinking through where you are personally today. Do you feel very confident in supporting staff under stress? Do you feel, okay, I can handle it, but I got some learning to do? Or do you feel like this is so beyond my skill set right now, I want to take it all in? All right, I see some check marks, beautiful. And here's something I want to notice as well. On top of probably being a content expert in the field that you're in, you also are managing people. And I think sometimes it's easy to focus on, well, we got to drive the sales. We've got to promote the product. We have to make sure the deadlines are met. That's important. Those things need to happen to keep the company and the business going. And at the same time, equal, if not more, priority needs to also be around professional development for your team, effective team building, communication, these different things to think about, how do I manage my people well so that they can feel supported and they can feel confident in the work they're doing. And again, have that buy-in. So just hold that in mind. Maybe hold in mind where you are today when we start. And then hopefully by the end, maybe you've shifted up at least into somewhat or very. So what is trauma-informed care? I've said that several times. We keep hearing this word trauma. And truly, at its simplest form, trauma-informed care is a shift perspective. It's really easy to look at people who you disagree with or people who maybe do something that you think is wild and to say, what is wrong with you? We may find this a lot on the road. Maybe there's some road rage or feelings of like, what's wrong with you? Why did you cut me off? What's wrong with you? Why are you flying down the road at 80 miles an hour when it's 65? And we have the choice then, if we're holding a trauma-informed lens, that we all have some trauma in our lives, to shift from what's wrong with you to what happened to you. That person on the road driving 80 miles an hour, passing you by and making you feel really unsafe as they whiz past your car, maybe just got a call that a loved one's in the hospital and they need to get there as quickly as possible. And so that's having that empathy, that perspective, like what's happening to you that you're choosing to act this way. Thinking about the coworker, the employee who you've had multiple conversations with around their attitude, their teamwork. You can tell they're not invested. And instead of being like, man, what's wrong with you? Why don't you get this? We probably wouldn't say that. But in your mind, it's more of a, I wonder what is affecting them. I wonder what has happened to them, either personally or professionally, to make them behave this way. It is seeing the behavior and getting curious about the cause to then shift into that trauma-informed lens. Again, I want to reiterate, we're not asking you to be therapists, but to hold this perspective. When we think about trauma-informed care, the focus is on safety, trust, and empowerment. And when we talk about safety, we talk about psychological safety. Many of you in your roles maybe have to follow OSHA regulations, HIPAA things, like you're providing safety and you have lockdown procedures and fire drill procedures. Excellent. That safety is in place. Have you thought about psychological safety? Have you thought about training your managers in some of these things to say, how do we promote and provide psychological safety to our team? Can they freely come and say, I am struggling without fear of being written up or fired? Can they go and say, my supervisor and I don't get along and I don't feel I'm being treated fairly? Now, granted, it's not always that black and white, but holding in mind, do they have that psychological safety in place? Is it embedded within your system, within your agency and your company to say, we welcome the hard conversations. We welcome the space where we can work through this together. I know this is very nuanced. You all know your team best and your systems best, but just starting to think about how we implement these things. It's focusing on trust that, hey, as your director, as your boss, I may need to make a really hard decision that you're not privy to. But because we've worked so hard on relationship, we've built that trust that when I make that hard decision that you may not agree with, on some level, you trust me to do my job and keep moving us forward. That trust has been built. And also thinking about empowerment. Think if every one of your employees had to write you back an email or give you a phone call or a Teams message and say, hey, are you okay if I send out this email? Are you okay if I reply to this? You would go crazy. I would. Thinking about the managing of everybody. And what I want to do at the end of the day is empower my team to feel confident that I have their back. That when they mess up, because they will, because we are human, it doesn't mean that maybe corrective action still needs to be taken, but I'm coming at a place from trust and respect. And I'm going to empower you to do your job, and we're going to figure it out together. So it's still setting boundaries. It's still holding accountability while bringing all these things in. So why does this matter to employers? Think about it this way. Having a trauma-informed lens is going to lead to an impact, more productivity from your employees, more consistent attendance, and more consistent and healthy communication. Again, we're promoting that psychological safety to say we can handle hard conversations. We can handle when it feels uncomfortable, or we're going to work toward that. It might not feel good yet, but we're aware of it and we're moving toward it. Trauma-informed perspective in the workplace leads to, if you don't have trauma-informed perspective, it leads to more turnover, people leaving right after you've trained them. I've experienced that a bunch of times. You invest in a person, you bring them in, and they're like, oh, I found something better. Oh, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of time that you can't get back. If we don't have this lens, it can create more burnout. There's too much being piled on me. This person left, and instead of addressing it systemically, it gets piled on me more. That's just one example of burnout. Or my hours are too hard or too much. And it's building up in me and I don't have a place to release this well, and so I burn out. Without this trauma-informed lens, it also leads to more conflict. Again, I go back to the beginning where I said, I've got beef with Jenny. And if I'm not having this trauma-informed lens modeled for me or spread throughout my work system, my go-to might just be like, I'm going to be mad at Jenny all the time, versus I know my employer promotes healthy communication and me and Jenny aren't getting along. So can we go to them? Can we go to HR and say, we need help here. We need support here. Or maybe if Jenny's not willing, I need help and support here. Help me to reduce conflict and be a healthier employee. So what are the benefits? What are the benefits of a trauma-informed workplace? Higher retention. Again, we talked about you invest so much time and money into bringing people on board. We want them to stay. We want them to feel invested in what we're doing. Improved morale. Again, I can go into like the hardest job on the planet, and everyone might feel like they have that at times for sure. And I can think back to when I was at Head Start, and Head Start is a free preschool program for families in poverty. And we would get peed on, we would get bitten, we would get sworn at, we would get hit by the kids. This is all from the kids. And again, we were using a trauma-informed lens. Instead of saying, what's wrong with you? Stop it. We had to look at what was happening in their lives to understand the behavior. And so I could walk into that situation where I knew I might get peed on today, I might get hit today, but because I knew my supervisor had my back, and because my supervisor was in this trauma-informed space with me, we could manage it. I felt equipped to go into those hard situations. It promotes stronger teamwork when I know that everyone is operating from this perspective. We're in it together. We're doing it together. We can figure it out together. Benefits also create better performance, drive up those sales, consistent employees. It gives off that as well. And think about this from your return on investment. I said that a couple times. You're pouring in a lot of time, energy, money, and this is just going to help you bring that all back, help you get that return to be able to long-term invest in your agency. When it comes to your role in all of this, again, feel free to put questions in the chat if you have any questions throughout. We will have some time at the end to ask more formally, but feel free if there's anything that's coming up that you're wondering about or don't feel quite on board with, I'm happy to elaborate. You have power in your role. And so how do you use that power well? Now I'm questioning, there's some movie quote. Oh, I shouldn't have even brought it up because I'm going to ruin it. With great power comes great responsibility. Is that Superman? I can't remember. But thinking through, with great power comes great responsibility. And maybe you can think back to supervisors, bosses, CEOs that you've had before that were not great. Maybe they knew how to drive the sale. Maybe they knew how to run the day-to-day of the company. But did they invest in you? Did they make you feel seen? Did they make you feel heard? And I realized too that we can't. Spider-Man, thank you, not Superman. Thank you, Kristen. Yes, Spider-Man's so good. I need to remember. Anyone excited about the new one coming out? That's a whole nother thing. So thinking through, we have that responsibility at the top, and I'm not asking you to have a personal relationship with every single one of your employees. You would run into burnout if that was the case. That would be impossible. But again, it's empowering each one of them so then they can pour into each other. Your managers, empowering them to pour into their staff, into their teams, whatever that might look like. But how are you modeling? You have the power to show, I'm not always going to get this right, but I value you by going to meetings like this, going to trainings like this, expanding my learning as your supervisor so that I can continue to serve you well. You have that power to shape the daily employee experience. Is there accountability? Are you holding your people in charge accountable? Are you holding your employees accountable? Is there time and space set aside for them to have a break? We all need breaks. We all need to refuel our bodies and minds. We all need to be able to just go to the bathroom and take care of our bodily needs. You are shaping that employee experience. You as a supervisor sets the tone for safety, communication, and the stress response. If you're closed off and aren't communicating effectively, that is felt and it's modeled. And people might say, okay, I'll use myself. Well, Christy she's not a great communicator, so why would I value communication and why would I do that with my team? It's maybe not a conscious thought, but it's a felt experience. It's a felt system. Again, going back to, you do not need to be perfect, but if you mess up, when we mess up, how do you go back and correct it? How do you go back and repair that relationship? You're setting that tone for psychological safety, healthy communication, and that stress response. If your team sees you stressed all the time, they're going to feel that. Think about, again, my work is a lot around families. You can feel it when you walk into a home and the parent is stressed. It is just, the energy is bouncing off the walls. I think about to my own childhood. I had a really stressed out dad. And so we felt it in our homes. We knew he'd come home every day at 5 and we just wanted to avoid. And so we go to our rooms and get busy because it was too much. And so he would set the tone for our home and we would take care of it other ways. So apply that to the workforce. If your staff know, oh, here comes Christy down the hall, she's going to come check in my office, and I can feel her negative or her stressful energy, I better make sure I look busy. I better make sure I'm looking productive. And we don't want that. We want them to feel equipped and empowered to be productive, to want to do those things. And truly, you are the key driver of retention. And I say that not to put it all on you. Don't ever blame yourself if people are quitting or leaving. It can't be placed on one person or one issue. It's very nuanced, but thinking through again, you're setting the tone. You are the one at the helm, doing the work well, thinking of the people well. You do your work, you're a content expert, and you're managing people. Those two things have to go hand in hand and be top priorities together. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to dive into each one of these going forward. But there are a few core principles of being trauma informed. Again, we've talked a little bit about this psychological safety piece. We're going to dive into trust and transparency, what that might look like. Talking about peer support, also collaboration, empowerment, and cultural awareness. And I do want to say, truly, what we're going over today is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to trauma-informed awareness in the workplace. But hopefully it's a good starting point that doesn't feel too overwhelming, that leaves you starting to critically think about these things deeper, starting to think about them more and how they can be implemented into your workplace and truly into your own personal practice. Because if we're not doing it, if we don't have the buy-in, our people will feel it. So start with yourself first. We cannot change systems overnight. We cannot change personalities and values overnight. We cannot impact them or influence them. So start with yourself first as we think through these things. So I've mentioned this quite a bit. When we talk about psychological safety, we need clear expectations. Leslie had mentioned you have Clear is Kind 2.0 coming up. I want to sign up for that because I want to hear what this, or get more info, because Clear is the best way to go. I won't speak too much about this because you're going to hear more about that if you attend that session. But thinking through, unclear is unkind. If I say to my staff, yeah, we really need this report due, but I mean, I don't know, maybe by Friday, if you could get 3 to 12 goals, that'd be awesome. That feels a little muddy and I don't know where to go. But if I can be assertive, if I can be clear, hey team, I need this report in my email by Friday at noon. I need each of you to write 5 goals and 3 outcomes. Great. I have a path as an employee to hit a target to hit, and I'm going to do it. Clear is kind. It also doesn't feel good to think about if you have to deal with an HR issue and you're like, well, we kind of noticed that, when your sales are way down, it'd be really great if you could bring those up. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? Again, as a supervisor, I can say, hey, your sales are down. The goals we set in the beginning of the year were that you were going to be at this percentage by April. How do I help you step in and get those goals met? Here are some things we've tried in the past. Let's do it. Clear is kind. It might feel really hard to have those conversations, but I know as an employee, I know as a leader, I need clarity. So hold that in mind. Set clear expectations. That also produces that psychological safety. I trust you more as an employee because you're clear with me. Consistent policies. I am in my employee handbook every day. And it's just making sure that I am sticking to what my people know, sticking to what I know. And I may say, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know that policy, but it never hurts for me to slow down and take the extra 30 seconds to make sure I know what I'm talking about. So that when I talk to my employee, Ben, and then I talk to my employee, Amina, and then I talk to my employee, Jennifer, I am consistent and clear in what I'm telling all of them. You want a pay raise? Well, let's go back to our policies. Let's go back and look at what our steps are toward that next pay level. Ben, you want one? Amina, you want one? We're all going to follow that table. We're all going to follow that policy. If I'm telling Ben, like, yeah, Ben, like, this is great. You're one of my buddies. I'm going to give you that raise. And Amina, I'm not sure yet. We're not there yet. Whatever that might be, going back to your policies, that produces psychological safety. They know then they can rely on you for that consistency and well thought out answer. Psychological safety is also built on respectful interactions. You can feel it when someone doesn't respect you. You can feel it when you're feeling, when someone's not giving you the time of day. You are busy. And so I'm not saying that your door needs to be open all the time for your folks to come in. But are there times for them to come meet with you? Do you have that time set aside? When you see them in the hallway, do you know their name? Do you genuinely, not just kind of to placate them, but genuinely care about what they're doing? Again, we can't personally invest in everyone at the same level. But when I see you in the hallway, I'm going to remember your name. When I see you in the hallway, I'm going to thank you for being here today. And it's building that culture. Because it's really easy, right, to say, Ben, I got to go. Like, I know, see you, bye. That happens sometimes. But then thinking about, even in fast, quick interactions, how do I remain respectful? How do I remain relational? It's so funny to me as I kind of talk through some of these things. Maybe some of you are thinking like, well, yeah, of course I would be respectful. Of course I would be consistent. But sometimes we don't think about these things consciously. We don't talk about them enough. We're kind of learning these soft skills. If you've ever heard that term, people have, right, those hard, concrete skills. I know I can type in, I'm Microsoft Office proficient. I can make this much in sales. I can do that. Those are hard skills. Those soft skills are people. Those soft skills are leadership. And so thinking through, we have to think about these things as much as coaching on how to make sales, on how to support our clients, whatever that might look like. Uncertainty is a stress trigger. If I don't know who I'm going to get when I talk to my supervisor, if I don't know what policy or what direction I'm going to get when I meet with them, it produces stress. So again, bringing that culture of psychological safety, doing all that together is going to relieve some of that stress, is going to take away from that additional stress in the workplace. Trust and transparency. I want to encourage us as much as possible to be predictable. There's plenty of stuff going on in our personal lives. And on some level, it's a real professional soft skill to be able to walk through the doors to my building, walk through the doors to my agency, and put aside what I'm dealing with personally in that moment. I'm not saying don't have personal connection. That's excellent to a healthy professional level. But thinking through, if I come in stressed and angry because I just got in a fight with my husband, but then tomorrow I had a donut on the way and I'm feeling the best like sugar rush ever, that's like whiplash for our people. So how can you be predictable in who you are? Be predictable in what your vision is for the company and how you follow that, so that they know that you're steering, you're not going to veer off course. You're consistent, you're predictable. That feels good, right? That feels good to our brains. That helps people to settle. I want to encourage, as you build trust and transparency, to communicate openly. At Ellison, I'm the interim executive director. We are right in the middle of a permanent executive director search. And there are so many things that I want to tell my team, every little detail about our potential candidates and who they're going to be and what they're going to bring. But I can't do that yet. However, I can still prioritize my open communication with them, how I can make sure that they know, hey, we are on track for hiring our new executive director by this date. We are on track with the steps that we set forward in this process. I can't tell you these things yet. Again, that's me being clear. I can't tell you these things yet, but I can communicate with you as much as I can. I can make sure that I prioritize what you need in that moment with my supervisor lens, knowing what I can and can't share. It's helpful too to explain decisions. Not that that they have to understand or have to have buy-in, but I'm a big why person. If you tell me to go, I don't know what the word, I can't even think of something off the top of my head. Go clean the basement. I'll clean the basement. But also I need like, just let me understand your decision. Oh, we have company coming over tomorrow. Great. I've got buy-in. Let me go clean the basement. Explain your decisions as much as you can with also realizing that there are things you may not be able to share with your team yet, and that's okay. But I will explain to my team, hey, this is why I can't tell you right now the details of our potential candidates, the details of their salary or any of these things. So let me just help you understand though, why we're in that place. They may choose to understand, they may not, but you've done your part to help them in the understanding process. Lack of information increases anxiety. I go back to the kiddo brain. With kids, we take them to soccer practice, we take them to school, we drop them off at grandma's, we go away for the weekend on a trip and leave them with another caregiver. And I think we think kids can just mold and move with that. And they can for the most part. They're pretty resilient. But starting to build into children early is like, hey, mommy and daddy are going on a trip this weekend. Grandpa is going to take great care of you and you will be safe. How that helps that child to feel settled. How do we do that in the workplace? Hey, team, quick email. I'm going to be out of town on these dates. While I'm gone, I'll just keep using Ben. Ben is in charge. So if you need anything, reach out to Ben. I'll be back on this day. So just thinking through how we can provide that information to help settle and calm the brain. All right, our next one is thinking through collaboration and empowerment. This kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, but including staff in decisions. If there are big decisions coming up, pull your managers in, pull your people in that can be privy to that information. If you can slow it down a little bit and get collective thought partners in that. We know that not all your decisions need to involve your staff. That would take a ton of time, a ton of resources, would go real slow. You do what you need to do as a leader to make decisions for your team and for your organization that you have been entrusted and empowered to do. But when you can, bring in that spirit of collaboration. Maybe it's something simple like, hey guys, we're thinking about getting a microwave or a air fryer for the break room. Do you have a preference? And send out a quick poll. It makes people feel connected. It makes people feel like they have a voice, even on something as simple as that. Here we go. Offer choices when possible. Maybe someone has a doctor appointment and they need to flex their time. If their job allows for it and they normally come in from 8 to 4, hey, do I have flexibility and freedom to come in from 9 to 5? I realize that's not always the case for everybody, but is there choice? Choice helps our brain, again, to feel empowered. If you're telling me all the time, do this, do this, do this, do this, no flexibility, it's harder to buy in. It's harder to feel that empowerment in my job. Offer choices when possible. Focus on strengths. So I'm going to give a little example for this. I'm going to tell you all right now, don't think about elephants. Whatever you do, don't think about elephants. What are you thinking about? I would imagine most of you are thinking about elephants, even though I told you not to think of it. When we focus on the negative, we think about the negative. Instead, if you flip-flop your language and flip-flop your perspective of, hey, today we're going to focus on tigers, then we're going to focus on tigers. And so thinking through, if I tell my employee, you cannot show up late again tomorrow. Well, they're focusing on like the fear of that, the weakness, the critical, like, I'm going to get written up for this. And I'm not saying if you got to write someone up, you follow what you need to do. Instead, focus on the strength, focus on the positive. Tomorrow, I need you here on time by 9 o'clock. What they hear and what they focus on is, I need you here on time by 9 o'clock. That is important. Versus fear-based of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late again. And oh my gosh, I'm going to get written up. So focus on strengths, focus on what people are good at and notice it. Call them out on it lovingly in a professional way around like, hey, I see you working hard. I see you learning more about this project. I see you learning more about this business development opportunity, and I appreciate it. Because again, it will build up that relationship so that when the hard conversations need to happen, you can do that. When people have some semblance of control, it reduces our stress. Again, if none of us had control, if none of us had choice of what we were going to eat or drink or the movie we were going to see or how we were going to spend our time, it gets stressful. And so we maybe know people in our lives like control a little too much, but really it's a brain response because it reduces that stress if I'm in control. So how can you find the middle ground of not needing to be controlling, but give some control to your people? Model healthy control for your people. Okay, it's important in all this to recognize trauma responses. You don't have to provide therapy. You don't have to diagnose people. However, it's important to be aware of these different trauma responses coming out in folks. Maybe you had an employee who's super connected and social most of the time, and all of a sudden they're withdrawing. All of a sudden, they're not prioritizing those work relationships and connections. What's going on there? Irritability. I will always remember I was a school counselor years ago, and I came from a really hard meeting with a parent. And I came back to my office, and our admin came up to me and said, "Hey, Christy, a student wanted to schedule an appointment with you. Can you let me know your availability when you have a moment?" And I turned around and snapped at her. And I said, "Nancy, that's fine. I don't have time." And I instantly regretted it. I instantly felt like the biggest jerk in the world. And that was not my normal. That irritable was not normal. And granted, that was one meeting. That meeting was maybe traumatic. That meeting was maybe stressful, but that was abnormal for me. And I took a deep breath. I went back to Nancy and I was like, wow, that was really inappropriate of me. That was really unprofessional and disrespectful. And we repaired it and we worked through it. But Nancy knew that wasn't me. She knew that that wasn't my normal mode of operation. So for her too to even recognize, hey, is anything going on? You doing all right? Not that that's her responsibility to fix it after I just snapped at her, but I did. I was able to tell her I had a really hard parent conversation, and that's not an excuse for how I treated you, but thanks for thinking of me. Do you have folks that all of a sudden have trouble focusing? Maybe they were like exceptional at hitting all their goals, and all of a sudden they're gone and they can't really focus. They're on their phone. They have a lot of appointments or different things. What's going on there? Absenteeism. You can start to tell when people miss work more and more. Like, what is happening? What's going on? Being cued into what's taking place. And overworking, that can be another trauma response. Maybe I'm stressed about finances and I can make overtime. Maybe my home life isn't great and I don't want to be there. Maybe feeling productive gives me that like serotonin boost and I just want to be here. Those can all be signs too of traumatic things, traumatic environments. And so how do we be aware? Again, not diagnosing, but just observing those patterns. And if you've thought through the other things that I've been talking about, this is all like building relationship. So that if you're noticing in your team withdrawal, irritability, overworking, any of these things, you've been building relationship with them, focusing on relationship with them to then invest in the hard conversations, to have the hard conversations of, Grace, you're showing up late every day. We can't have that. How do we figure out a plan together? What's going on in your life? Are there things that I can help you with? I also realize, right, there's HR boundaries and lines. Always follow those. I'm not saying don't, but think through where is there the professional appropriate line for you to show that you care about them as a human? Or again, to say, hey, we got to get in touch with HR. I can't do this for you, but HR can help you work through this. Noticing those patterns, investing in what's going on, and noticing your team. So early on, we talked about the shift in that trauma lens, thinking about what is wrong with you to shifting to a trauma lens of what happened to you. This is a great base for learning about practicing like reframing or shifting the behavior. I think sometimes we can look at humanity and think this person is trying to be difficult. This person is trying to make my day terrible. This person is purposefully not getting their work done. And I will say there are times that happens. Absolutely. We're not free of it totally. However, when you get to like the core of humanity, and you're totally allowed to disagree with me on this, I think most people are trying to do the best they can with the skills that they have. Maybe they don't have the skills yet to do it better. And maybe that's our job to help them with some professional development and step in and think through how do we support them. So this first point is that it's easy just to kind of frame people as like, oh, they're trying to be difficult. They're trying to be really hard and make this hard. Well, if you feel that way, step in and professionally walk through it with them. You know, hey, I'm noticing this in your behavior. I'm noticing this in your work turnout. Like, how do we talk through that? How do we think about this differently? A lot of times we are working from our stress responses. Most humans react versus respond. React is like our first, right? Like you came in, you ate my sandwich from the work refrigerator, and I'm going to march in your office and yell at you. That's a reaction. That doesn't feel good to anybody. But I noticed that you accidentally ate my sandwich, so I have the choice to respond and say, hey, did you eat my sandwich? Did you mean to? Okay, like that wasn't cool. Like either you can bring me a new sandwich or whatever. Like it's a silly example. But thinking through reaction versus responding is critical, because most of humanity is stuck in just reaction mode, that we just react to what's coming at us instead of taking a deep breath, slowing down our heart rate, slowing down our brain, and choosing to say words that aren't hurtful, choosing to be clear, choosing to be professional instead of just reacting. I often like to talk about here that our first thought is what we're conditioned to think, and our second thought is our choice. So let's say, for instance, I grew up in a home where one of my parents never said these words, but made it clear that we needed to be a little nervous or apprehensive around Black people. And I remember thinking, what is that? That's not okay. And where did that come from my parent? And that was what I was conditioned to think. However, if I just go with that and don't think about the reality of that and how wrong it was, then I'm stuck in this reaction space. I'm stuck in this conditioning space. Instead, I have the choice to respond and think differently. So we can't blame ourselves if something comes roaring up in our minds that we've been conditioned to think, but we have the choice to do it different. We have the choice to think about it differently and find the truth and what's really going on. So instead of reacting, well, I know that this is the truth or this isn't. Well, think about it from the other person's perspective for a minute. Think about what's true and what's good and how you can slow it down, how you can not react, but respond and choose the better path. Most of us adapt based on past experiences. So again, if I'm consistently noticing that when I go talk to my boss, they don't have time for me, they are gruff with me, I'm not gonna keep coming to you. Why would I keep coming to you? That doesn't feel good. And so I adapt to then just withdraw. And if we think through, this last point, sorry, should be further down, but these are kind of like the old thinking things. People are trying to be difficult. People are just stress responses, and they're not thinking about how they can actively work through past experiences. So we shift from, well, they're just lazy, to, maybe they've never been held accountable to get their work done on time. So how do I help them with that? Well, they have a bad attitude. Am I showing them a bad attitude? How can I model a positive attitude? How can I model a positive outlook on the work that we're doing? How can I step in and help them to shift that perspective for them? Well, they just don't care. Maybe they do care, but maybe there's a lot going on in their lives and they don't know how to check out of it when they come to work. They don't know how to manage it when they come to work. So again, it's like practicing to reframe, to think through a different lens as we go forward and interact with our people. So when we do that, I'm going to go back up to this fourth bullet point. This reduces judgment and improves responses. So thinking through, it's real easy to judge. Most of our brains like to judge. And that's kind of that thought around your first thought is not your own, it's conditioned. Our first thought might be to judge, but our second thought is then to say, okay, I don't need to be judgy about it. I can just look at it from a really objective viewpoint. So let's reduce that judgment. and improve that response instead of sticking in what's wrong with this person. So these are going to be some practical daily strategies or things that you can actually practice, things that maybe you can empower your managerial team to practice and empower them to do as well. Regular check-ins. I will say, and coming into this interim role, there's a lot to manage, right? There's a lot to think through. However, I learned real quick that if I wasn't doing consistent check-ins with my team, we're a small team at Ellison, like 11 people, so this is more doable for us, that consistent check-ins with my folks help them to feel grounded. We didn't have to do anything revolutionary. We didn't have to do anything like solve all the world's problems, but it was just like a, hey, I see you, you see me, I got you. What do you need in this moment? How do we support each other? How do we support our work and our efforts? Also holding in mind, there will always be a supervisor-supervisee dynamic. It will always be there. And in a way, it can be really healthy, right? That professional boundaries aren't being crossed. There's a leader and someone in charge. And also thinking through, I don't have to reveal everything to them. I don't have to be personal friends with them, but I do have to show them I care genuinely. I do have to show up and say, okay, I value you as a human being in this organization. You may not be able to do it with everybody, but how do you empower your managers to do it? How do you then do regular check-ins with your managers so they can do it with their people? It grounds folks, it helps us feel connected, and that relationship continues to build, and I have more buy-in for the work that we're doing. We talked about some clear communication. Communication is so hard. You can be married to someone for 30 years and still struggle with communication. You can be in the same organization with the same people for decades and still struggle with communication. And again, it's one of those soft skills that sometimes we overlook. So how do we practice our communication skills? Knowing that there's so much that gets in the way from what I say to your ears or from what you say to my ears, and then my understanding. Thinking through too, most of my communication with my team is done via email. And I can't tell you how many times people have written back and said, did you mean this? And so we know, right, in 2026, so much of how we're communicating is Teams, Slack, email, texting, whatever that might be. And it can really, our intent can really be misconstrued. I've been married to my husband for 10 years, and if he sends back a K in a text message, just the letter K, I'm like, he's so mad. Like, what's going on? And I have to reach out. But really, he's not mad. He was probably just busy. And so thinking through, how do we get clear communication? It's hard, but you walk through it slowly. You learn from it slowly. Just like any skill, if you wanted to be the next best and greatest alpine skier, you would slowly build up. You wouldn't be doing like mountains on day one. You wouldn't be just like doing that. You'd be like, okay, how do I even put my feet in the skis? And you work toward it. Practice little communication habits. I have 5 minutes. I can actually walk to this person's office and just communicate with them directly. Maybe that's just one thing you try and do something different. All right. Consistent feedback. When I started my first supervisory job, not first, but one of my early ones was at Head Start, and I supervised a team of mental health folks, and they were exceptional. And in mental health, we're in our feelings a lot, we're in our emotions a lot. And so I think early on, I felt like I needed to be there for them all the time and kind of be chummy with them. And I think that set me back, because then when it came to like their annual reviews, I felt bad and I felt mean just holding them accountable and helping them set goals. And so that was like a big professional shift for me and a big professional realization that, hey, clear again is kind. I want to be consistent in my feedback with you. And I need to own that and embrace that as a supervisor and learn those skills so I can be better for you. And that took some practice. But I didn't want to all of a sudden say, okay, in the daily in and out, I'm reminding you of this, or we're working on this. But then when I have to put it on paper, or when I have to submit it to my HR, and I have to talk to you about it and give you like a formal review in person, I get really nervous and pull back. And that doesn't feel consistent with the messaging I'm giving. Clear is kind. I want to be consistent as much as possible for my people so they know what to expect. Hey, remember when we've been working on When families come in to drop off their kids, we at least just greet them. I know you're busy, but acknowledge their presence. Well, then all of a sudden I get to their formal review and I'm like, nope, you're doing great. Your family communication is excellent. Like, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel consistent for people. So again, it can be this like, hey, remember we've been working on greeting families. How do you think you're doing in that? How do you think it feels for you when they come in? What can I do to support that as we move forward? Always correct in private. If you've ever been corrected in public, this kind of sends me back into my childhood. Like if you were ever, corrected or punished or it was punitive in front of your friends or in front of coworkers or your family or whoever it was or strangers, it doesn't feel good. As leaders, as supervisors, we do need to correct from time to time. Do it in a way that is honoring to your employees. And that is a private space. That might be, I need HR with me, but that's still private with the three of us. No one wants their yuck aired. We all have it. We all have shortcomings. We all have areas of growth, but give them the dignity to discuss that in a private setting. It really honors the human being and builds trust and relationship with you as a supervisor. Focus on what you can do immediately. I've mentioned it a few times. You don't have to change a system overnight. You may leave this webinar today and be like, I don't really buy into what that was all about. And that's okay. We're all different. But the thought is, if we can learn from each other, if we can open our minds to new perspectives, right? We only grow. We only learn more. And so instead of taking this today and saying, okay, I gotta have a one-on-one with all my team every week. I need to make sure that I'm being clear. I need to make sure that I'm having all these meetings. No, you don't. Focus on what you can do now. How can I step in this moment? How can I support my people in this moment? How can I just be available? And maybe down the road, long-term planning, long-term thinking with your managerial team or your board. Maybe you're the only person in a managerial role. Talk to your board. How can we think about long-term intentional planning to implement some of these strategies, to shift our work culture so that we're holding in mind this trauma-informed lens and what our people are bringing to work every day? Okay. I mentioned this. Communication is hard in any relationship, whether you're talking in person, whether you're texting, it is hard. A few things that can be really tangible and practical for when you're communicating with your team and with your people. Maybe it just starts with something as simple as, what do you need from me? It helps to put your staff into a reflective space. Because I'm not expecting you, and I hope you don't expect yourself, to have to go into every situation and fix it all. I think we do that a lot in leadership roles, and it's not inherently a bad thing by any means. But again, we go back to that empowerment. How can I empower my team to think critically and to fix it themselves? But also, what do you need from me in this moment? And it instantly settles people. It instantly says, I'm open to communication and relationship. So what do you need from me? Okay, start there. Stay calm and neutral. It's very easy to take it personally. A lot of these interactions do feel very personal. There are times where I'm like, I'm letting down all Ellison Center because I didn't get this one email out on time. And it's like, okay, take a deep breath. Yes, I'm holding our agency, but it's not all on me. I've got a team. I've got a board. We can do this together. And instead I can get worked up or I can get so frustrated, but really it's like, nope, just stay calm and neutral. Calm and neutral helps your nervous system regulate. And if you're in communication with someone, it helps their system regulate. If you have a really unregulated, dysregulated employee, frustrated, puffing and puffing, hands on their hips, spit flying, if you match them and keep going, you're only going to each climb. But if you stay right here, they are eventually going to attune themselves, connect themselves with you subconsciously to come down. So stay calm and neutral. Take those deep breaths. We had a person come into our Head Start office a number of years ago, and they came in through our security. We had a locked door, but they came in for a legitimate reason. And then when they were there, they got really mad. And so they started walking around our office, just filming all of us and screaming. And I remember thinking okay, I'm the mental health person on staff. People are looking to me to go de-escalate this situation. And you better believe I every step it took from my office to this person, I was taking deep breath, deep breath, deep breath, and regulating myself that even though I was walking into this really hard situation and I was terrified of what this person was doing, again, I couldn't match them. I had to stay here. And I'm not saying they left calm, but it didn't get any higher. I was able to make clear choices and sound decisions because I was regulated and neutral. I wasn't taking it personally. Clearly, this person had a lot going on. What happened to them? Probably like very trauma stuff going on. Instead of what's wrong with you, what happened to you that you're choosing to react this way? Stay calm and neutral. We talked about options. Options feel good to the brain. Don't give 10 options. That's too much for the brain. That's really hard. 2 is perfect. Great team. We are having team lunch on Friday. And would you like Jimmy John's or Chipotle? Not Jimmy John's, Chipotle, Perkins. What is the other place? Panera, like all these things. It's too much. The brain looks for black and white. The brain looks for simplicity. Give options. In communication tips, or sorry, I just read my slide. When communicating, give options as much as you can. Great. I hear you saying that your 9 to 5 schedule isn't working. We could do 8:30 to 4:30, or we could do this, whatever it might be, or 9 to 5, 3 days a week, whatever it might be. Give options if possible. This is a big one. You want to listen to understand. Most of the time, we listen to respond. We are ready. We are loading up in our brains. I know how I'm going to get this back out. I am classic. It's classic for me to finish people's sentences and like cut in. And I work really hard against that every day. That's a skill that I continue to learn and I'm practicing. I don't mean to cut people off. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm also like showing them in my way, I'm engaged with what you're saying and I get where you're going. But I don't need to respond all the time. Maybe it's about them expressing what they need and I just need to understand. Think about, too, if you've had a really hard day at work and you go home to your family or your spouse or your friend and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot stand this employee. They're really hard to work with. That your spouse or your friend or whoever you're talking to, they don't need to solve it. You just want to be heard. They can't solve it. They're not part of the issue. But how good does it feel just to be heard and be understood? And we want to do that for our employees too. Tone matters as much as words. You can be the best communicator. You can be so clear and everyone could understand it if it was just in writing. But if you come across irritated, if we come across agitated, that communication takes on a whole new meaning. There's a lot that goes on in communication. There's so many different dynamics. And we know too that I forget the exact statistic, but some crazy percentage, like 90% of communication is nonverbal. So am I standing here like this, like I don't have time? Am I standing here on my phone when you're trying to talk to me? Am I, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, sure. Those things don't feel good. And so monitoring our tone, monitoring how we're coming across and not just what we're saying holds weight. Okay, I've given you a lot of things. This is not meant to overwhelm you. This is meant to say, here's things we can focus on. Here are some tangible tools that you can put in your managerial tool belt today. And you can choose when to pull them out, when to use them, when to try them. And they might feel weird in the beginning. For those of you in the beginning of our time together who said like, yeah, I feel great managing my people. I am so thrilled. And I would be so curious to know like what tips and things you have when you think about addressing your folks from a trauma-informed lens, from holding that piece as you're holding your team. And for those of you that didn't feel so good, I hope this doesn't feel like you've been drinking from like a fire hose, like it's just like too much. Again, you'll have these slides and go back to them when it feels good. Go back and pull some things out that might be nice. Put it in a drawer and save it for 6 months and come back to it in 6 months. Don't feel overwhelmed. You don't have to change anything or change everything today. You don't need to change anything. Maybe it's just a reflective space. When we think about handling stress and conflict, we've talked a lot about this. Pause before you react. Take a deep breath. De-escalate. Like I brought that woman down who was filming us. My goal in that moment was to de-escalate. We could figure out the issue later. Focus on solutions. We talked about focusing on the positive instead of the negative. Also, we love to blame. Blame gives us reason and understanding. If I can blame someone or something, well, then it must be true. It must be valid. But I like to challenge folks to not be in the black and white all the time. Well, Ben did this, he screwed up payroll, it's his fault. Instead, live in the gray. That's kind of my tagline for my life. I try to live in the gray. And gray doesn't always feel good. Our brains want black and white. But if we can shift a little bit into that unknown once in a while and get curious, okay, Ben didn't get payroll done. Like, yeah, that's a big deal, and we've got to figure it out. And that's not normal for him. Well, what's going on, Ben? We're not just going to blame you. We're going to problem solve. We're going to focus on the solutions. And you get the esteemed role of modeling emotional regulation. You don't have to be perfect all the time, but if you put these things into practice, you are modeling for your team. Hey, I value your perspective. I am coming from this trauma-informed lens, this trauma-informed space to choose to see you differently, to choose to respond to you differently, because we're all human first and foremost. Some real tangible things to prevent burnout, again, holding in mind your system and what's best for within how your structure operates. Encouraging breaks. It's not just OSHA and work law, but thinking about how can people take a mental break. Monitoring workload so it doesn't get overwhelmed. Rotate those high stress tasks. Promoting support resources. If any of you ever heard of EAP, Employee Assistance Program, do some Googling. See if that's something you can offer to your folks within your system. Prevention is more effective than just responding. Okay, we're so close. How do we build this culture? Train your leadership, review your policies to see if they are trauma-informed. How do they promote the person first? How do they promote the employee first? Encourage feedback. Maybe you send out a survey once or twice a year. Hey, how's leadership doing? What would you like to see changed? You can't always honor all those, but they have a voice and you encourage their feedback. Recognize and call out those healthy behaviors. Be realistic and intentional with what people can do. And again, this must go beyond individual supervisors. How do you promote it as a team and a system? We're not asking you to lower expectations. I'm not asking you to avoid accountability. And this is not therapy. But if you can hold this lens, this perspective on how you reach out to your folks and treat them and run your agency, you're all going to be happier and healthier within your work. So as we wrap up, just think for a second. This can just be something that you do on your own. On a scale of 1 to 5, do you create a safe environment? Can you communicate clearly? And do you support staff under stress? Not meant to blame or shame. Just think about where you're at, and maybe that can shift to a higher one. Leslie, yes. I did see a hand go up, but then I saw it go down. Did anyone have a question? Okay, I'm about to wrap it up here, and maybe there will be some questions here at the end. Key takeaway: trauma-informed supervision equals better people and better performance. At the end of the day, you have a business, you have an agency, you have a corporation, you have an LLC, whatever it might be. And at the end of the day, you need to be bringing in income. You need to be providing a service. You need to be reporting to your clients and your shareholders, whatever that might be. And if we can support our people doing that work, it's going to ultimately output better performance. You will be reaping the benefits because, like systemically throughout, because of how you shift your thinking as a supervisor. People do their best work when they feel safe, respected, and understood. If we knew our door was shut and there was a tiger on the other side of that door, we would not feel safe to do what we needed to do. And so we might not have real tigers coming through our doors, but where is trauma? Where's the response? Where are people stressed? That it might not be a real tiger, but it feels really big and scary. And how do I get my work done when big and scary things are happening? So providing that space, modeling for our folks what that looks like to focus on the human first. Okay, that's officially it. Please feel free to drop your questions into the chat, or if you can come off mute, feel free. But as you leave today, just think about a few things. What challenges do you see in your workplace, and what's one strategy you could implement this week, tomorrow, whatever it might be? Well, tomorrow's the end of the week, but give yourself some grace, go slow, and you got it. You got it. Thank you all for having me. And then I saw Leslie shared a resource, it looks like. How your thoughts are connected to your future. Ooh, that looks good. I'll have to take a look, Leslie. Anything you want to say about that?
It was just a very powerful video I had seen at another training. It's old, 7 years old, but very yeah, profound. So it's about
Awesome.
14 minutes long. So
Great. Isn't it wild to kind of think like 7 years ago feels old? Right?
yes.
But things shift so fast in this day and age. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate being here. I will send these slides to Leslie, and my email is on there. You are welcome to reach out whenever. And I just want to encourage you in what you're doing. And thank you for attending today. I'll hang out a few more minutes if people have questions, but Leslie, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, everyone. If you haven't and are interested, please reach out to Lori if you need information on Clear as Kind that is happening next Thursday. Otherwise, yeah, thank you all for attending, and reach out to Lori. Her email is in the chat for a copy of the slides or the recording if you are interested. Melissa, let me try to get you off mute here. You should be able to talk, Melissa. Oh, all right. Nope. Thank you, everyone. I'm thinking we don't have any questions, Christy.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks again, Leslie, for having me. It was really great. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
I'm going to end the event, Lori.
Okay.